Low-key geek. Hey, hey, he's a low-key geek. He tries to be out there when he wants to be, but hey, he's a low-key geek.
Shoot. Oh, let's try that again. Mic is on. All right. Uh, a morning of technical issues, but hey, guys, what's up? Renee from Low Key Geek back at it. It's a Tuesday, a different day here than what I normally do. Usually I'm on here Mondays at 8 p.m., so it's also earlier in the day, too. But like I said before, a little bit of a late start this morning because a lot of technical issues on my end. That seems to be the norm the last couple of weeks here, but I'm back. I'm live, coming off of the Memorial Day weekend. I hope you guys had a great Memorial Day weekend. I hope you were able to rest, relax, try not to think about all the things happening in the world right now. I know sometimes it's easier said than done, but typically Memorial Day is for barbecues and eating and getting out in the sun. I know a lot of people ventured out to the beaches, tried their best to social distance. I'm seeing reports that that may not have always been the case, but let's just hope that everyone has been staying safe and doing what they need to do. So, like I said, hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. Before I start, got a couple of great things, interesting things to talk about today. Obviously, tomorrow's a big day with HBO Max launching. So I know there's been a lot of talks about that. But before I start, like I said, the Low Key Geek podcast goes live every Mondays and Fridays. Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you like watching folks on Twitch, I do Twitch stream on Twitch Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Best thing to do is to follow me on social for my schedule every week. I do update that quite often. And I've mentioned this on Friday, and I will mention it again. For the remainder of May, so which is pretty much this week, I will be accepting donations to a great cause called Coffee to the Front Lines. Again, it's an organization that works with small businesses to gather up all the necessities: food, drink, coffee, things of that nature, and then supplies them to all the frontline workers, your doctors, your nurses, everyone who works at hospitals and medical facilities on a daily basis. So it's a great cause. My friend Lee started this up back in March, and she's been doing it every day since she started. So, I think it's always great when you can support good people doing great things. So I know times are tough. I know, a lot of you are uncertain about, when you're going to get your next paycheck, or, how long you'll be able to get your paycheck. But if you have the means, every little bit counts, and any donation you can throw our way will be hugely appreciated. And of course, if you're watching this live for the first time, welcome. Do hit that like and subscribe button. Always greatly appreciated, and it helps with the algorithms. And if you have been to the channel before and you watch me, welcome back. Great to have you here. So before I get started, the weekend was fairly calm and quiet. I was able to meet up with some friends very briefly, which was more like an impromptu meeting. I took a trip to a store called East End Gaming in Long Island, New York. I live in Queens, so I wanted to pick up a PS3 because I started this Twitch stream on Fridays, which is more of like a flashback Friday, something where I kind of go backwards and pull up an old classic and kind of replay it as if I'm playing it for the first time. This past Friday, I did that with the famous PC game Full Throttle, and it was a lot of fun. And I got to connect with a lot of viewers out there who remember the game, and a couple who've actually helped me kind of get through some of the hard puzzles throughout the game. So that was a whole lot of fun. And I thought, because of the fun and success of that, I definitely want to continue um, that type of format moving forward. So, you know, it was so this Friday I have something interesting planned where um, I'm pulling something up from the archive, and I will be playing the PS3 title Brutal Legend, which is a game that I've always wanted to play. And it's interesting too because Full Throttle was designed by Tim Schafer, and this is a later game that was also produced and designed by Tim Schafer, but for console. And it's a game I've been wanting to play for so long. I've had the copy, it's still in its shrink wrap and everything like that. I just never had a chance to play it. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, do check it out on Friday. Um, Real quick, Hector Carrillo, thank you for chiming in. I also can't wait to watch the Cartoon Network shows on HBO Max. So, again, I'll be diving into what to expect in tomorrow's launch in a little bit. Also, just real brief, this past weekend, I didn't really watch a lot of new things. I did watch the new episode of Snowpiercer, and it's only the second episode, but I'll be honest with you, I fell asleep halfway through. It was kind of boring. I don't know if that is going to be something that I'll be watching a lot moving forward. It just it doesn't seem to hold interest to me like it used to. Um, well, not like I used to, but like the first episode, where the first episode was intriguing and all that, but um, it doesn't hold kind of like the look and feel that I liked from the movie itself. The movie was very dark, very ominous, and it was very well paced, in my opinion. In this TV series, and I know things are a little different when it comes to TV compared to movies, but things are too bright and too much production involved in it, and it kind of throws me off a little bit. I like that little twist that they threw at the end of episode one. No spoilers here. If you're interested, you could catch it yourself. But then when this new episode kicked in, it started off kind of rough in a sense, like not a good thing happened in the beginning of the second episode, but then as it continued, it just got really dull, and I didn't know where they were going, and things were kind of stretching, and just wasn't pleased with how the episode kind of panned out. And I just fell asleep. I'll be honest, I fell asleep, and I woke up with only 5 minutes left in the episode, so I don't know exactly what happened. So maybe I'm not the right one to be criticizing it right now, but at least I can say that it was something that didn't hold my interest. So, I kind of have like a strict guideline where I'll give it 3 episodes, 3 to 4 episodes, to see if it could capture my interest moving forward. So we'll see what happens with the next episode. If this is going to be a series I'll continue to watch. Um, and lastly, I kind of did like a nice little recap. Um, Not recap, but I wanted to kind of rewatch the two Avengers movies, Infinity War and Endgame. It was just something that I just popped up, popped open on my YouTube, because I have my YouTube connected to my digital movies and all that. And it just something that I kind of fell into. And watching those two movies back to back, God, it's still so good. Watching, the events that happened in Infinity War, and just watching the closure of that whole storyline in Endgame. That's some good, you know, movie watching right there. I mean, to see the journey of these characters that you kind of went through ever since 2008. Um, Still, I've watched these movies. This is probably my fifth and sixth time seeing these movies, and still, I'm not getting tired of it at all. And of course, it kind of reminds me of the fun of being, in the movie theater watching these with a group of people, a packed audience, and remembering the reactions. I'm sure you've seen all the the videos out there and the audio clips of audience reactions during key moments of the movies. So I remember that very fondly. So I do miss the movie going experience. Don't know exactly when that will happen again, or when we'll be comfortable with that happening again, but we'll see. But yeah, so that was pretty much my weekend. I hope you guys had a great weekend as well, and I hope you were able to catch up on whatever stuff you were wanting to watch. So, that being said, let's move on to the usual segments that I like to go through here on a Monday that I kind of debuted last week, and that is what's hot and streaming on iTunes and Netflix and box office numbers. I know it's kind of weird to say box office numbers when most theaters are closed, but there are a lot of theaters who started slowly opening. These are more your mom and pop, local theaters and drive-ins, of course. So again, a lot of this data is coming from the numbers.com. So first off, oops, there we go. First off, we have box office top five. So there wasn't really a top five. There was only a top three this past Memorial Day weekend. The Wretched, which I reported on last Monday, horror movie that's been kind of playing in a lot of drive-ins and so on and so forth, raked in $186,000 at a total of 59 theaters across the nation. Now, what makes this interesting is that last week I reported that it was at 21 theaters. So obviously there's a huge uptick in theaters playing this movie. When it comes to horror movies, there's always going to be an audience for that, and what a perfect way to kind of enjoy your time at a drive-in by watching a horror movie. Second one is We Summon the Darkness, which is like another horror, somewhat comedy. This is an Amazon film, but it's produced by Saban. Saban Entertainment are the same folks that do Power Rangers. You could see here it took in $30,232 at only 10 theaters. And at number three, at a whopping $15, The Burnt Orange Hearsay played in one theater. Maybe this was one of those limited engagement releases. The movie does star some, ca- Hollywood notables here, but you know, $15. So big news there. Now for the next two slides, I do apologize. I've been having, again, going back to my technical difficulties, one of which is Photoshop and just wasn't cooperating. So I have the list here, but no pictures to go along with it. So I apologize in advance. I'll make sure that this is fixed for next week. But moving on to iTunes top 10 movies, we have Scoob still remaining at number one. Now, these are movies that are mostly video on demand, so you have to rent them or purchase them. But Scoob still remaining at number one. Jumanji: The Next Level, which is the sequel to the new iteration of Jumanji, that's coming in at number two. The Gentleman moved on up. Last week, I believe I said it was at 8 or 9. It's now number 3 on the list, and this is the latest Guy Ritchie movie. Number 4, Midway. I'm pretty sure because of Memorial Day weekend, people wanted to watch some sort of war epic. So I don't know if Midway is what I would call a war epic, but or epic in general. But it did come in at number 4. Number 5 is Vin Diesel's Bloodshot. Last week I reported it at number 10. Moved on up on the list, so I think a lot of people are maybe hungry for some comic book action. I don't, comic book superhero action. I have yet to watch this movie. I am curious though, but my curiosity has not piqued enough for me to actually rent it. Number 6, Emma. the very old comedy starring Gwyneth Paltrow surprisingly makes its way on the list at number six. So I found that very interesting. Number seven, we have Sonic the Hedgehog, which was higher on the list last week. Number eight, Bad Boys for Life, which I think dropped from number two down to number eight. The Invisible Man, I think, was number six last week. This is the new version of The Invisible Man by Blumhouse. And then number 10, Fury, which is a great war movie with Shia LaBeouf, Brad Pitt, amongst other people. Again, I think because of the type of weekend and more Memorial Day here in the States, that came in at number 10, people wanting to watch some sort of war epic movie. Moving on to top 10 Netflix streaming. Again, apologies. No graphics here. There's nothing wrong with your screens. Coming in at number one is the TV show Sweet Magnolias. Something that made me very happy, and I kind of mentioned last week as coming new to Netflix, and something that I myself I'm gonna start watching because I haven't had a chance to really watch the full series. But that's Avatar: The Last Airbender. A lot of people streaming that on Netflix, so that makes me very very happy. People reliving the classic Nickelodeon TV series. I believe it was only around for 3 seasons, but then it spawned off into Korra, which is a series that came out after that. But yeah, and what a lot of people don't even realize, Dave Filoni. This was one of his earlier things that he worked on before he moved on to the Clone Wars for Lucas and eventually Disney. So I think that's one of the reasons why the storytelling here is quite unique and kind of captured the audiences that really fell in love with it. So Avatar: The Last Airbender coming in at number two, and that makes me very happy to see that. Number three, The Lovebirds, a new movie that released last Friday on Netflix with Kumail Nanjiani and Issa Rae. It's like a rom com, something that is actually on my queue to check out. I am interested to see how that is. I've heard mixed things about it, but that came in at number three. Number four, The Wrong Missy, the David Spade new movie that came out a couple weeks ago. Number five, Just Go With It. Number six, Dead to Me. Number seven, The Flash. I also mentioned last week that the new season 6 of The Flash, just came out on Netflix, so I'm sure that's a lot of people trying to catch up on that. Number eight, History 101. Number nine, Riverdale. And number 10, White Lines. So that is what's popping on streaming and box office and so on and so forth from the past weekend. So again, do apologize for the piss poor presentation there. I will make sure that Photoshop is fully up and operational again moving to next week. But chime in if you've watched any of these movies, if you had something that you wanted to mention, that you caught up on over the weekend. Always chime in on the chat. I'm always happy to see what people are watching, and let's have a conversation about it. So, one thing I did find very heartbreaking from this past weekend, and I don't recall if it hit the news streams on Friday or Saturday, but something that I really did want to talk about because it does hit pop culture, especially Japanese pop culture, which I do report on quite frequently and often. But that is the unfortunate passing of wrestler and reality star host Hana Kimura. So, and again, I love it when this happens, but here we go. Um, Hana Kimura, if you don't know who she is, she's a 22-year-old female wrestler, very well known in the wrestling circuit, whether it be in Japan or here in the States. But I think most people will remember her and recognize her because of her time on the hit reality show Terrace House. Terrace House is one of those. Just think of like the Real World or something of that nature, where you have six people, usually three women, and three guys living in a house together, and their daily lives are captured for the next several months. She kind of started being on the show, I think, sometime within the middle or end of last year, and she, because of what she does and all that, she's a very outspoken individual. She is a wrestler, so she's someone who definitely stands her ground. At oftentimes she was, kind of seen as the outstanding outlier in the show because of her looks, the way she dresses, her pink hair. But she was usually very quiet and somber on the show. But I think at certain times when certain things happened, she was not afraid to speak up. But unfortunately, this kind of spawned a lot of cyberbullying, which is something that is very prominent in Japan and Japanese culture. It affects a lot of young kids, kids in grade school, kids in high school, and unfortunately, things like suicide is not uncommon in Japan, mostly because of this. So it was very sad to hear that she decided to take her own life, because of the type of messages and cyberbullying that she received online. So, when I was reading the information and some of the details here, again, 22 years old is so young and such a waste of life and talent. She left apparently several notes. One that was addressed to her mom, saying like, "Thank you for giving birth to me." Um, she, um, she mentioned that she had, I think, a tweet like right before it happened, that she kind of mentions that she reads these messages all the time, and these messages were things like, the show will be better off once you leave, you should never be on TV again, and so on and so forth, which is, if you live in or around, internet media and internet culture, you're a fan, so you are very familiar with fandom and things like that. People online can be very brutal, and because there's usually no filter except for the monitor in front of you, the screen in front of you, it gives people kind of like that sense that they could go ahead and say whatever they want, not necessarily understanding or realizing how it might affect the person that they're targeting. Um, this happens all across the world. So, it's stuff that here in the US we are very familiar with, especially with things like Star Wars fans, Marvel fans, DC fans. They are very vocal when they're not happy with something, and they're not afraid to tell you when your opinion is the wrong one, even though it is your opinion. But here in Japan, people do take a lot of these things to heart, because there's just that. Personality trait that a lot of Japanese people have, where, you know, image and consciousness and all that is very important. And if they get so much negative feedback, they themselves really believe in it, and it leads to a lot of depression and mental illness. And in this case, it's unfortunate that it led to her deciding to take her own life. And you know, one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this up is because I think this is also very important because of the kind of current situation that we're in right now, where, a lot of people have been on lockdown and stayed indoors for the last 2 months, depending on your situation, whether you're working, furloughed, or if you were laid off. And a lot of those people are single, and a lot of those people live on their own. And maybe the amount of time that this person has been kind of isolated could have affected their mental stability, and so on and so forth. So I mentioned last week that I decided not to go on Facebook that often because there are certain people in my circle, that I can see that their deterioration as months go on. even though I may have reached out and kind of gave them solace and stuff like that, and kind of told them, just hang in there. I'm always there for people. It's up to that person to kind of decide how they want to take that advice and that help. um, but it's unfortunate that these things happen, and because of the state of the world that we're in right now, this can actually help accelerate these moments of mental instability. um, Lucky for me, none of the people I know have got to that point where they're so depressed that they would consider doing something like this, is taking their own life. But you never know. That type of switch can flip on anytime, and more often than not, when it does, most of the time we don't even know about it, and we are not even aware. So one thing I always want to say to people is that if you're ever feeling down and out, and any semblance of that type of feeling comes over you, understand and know that there are people out there who are always happy and willing to be there for you, talk to you. You know, I in the past have made myself available to talk to people when they're, feeling down on their luck or just not happy. You know, take a walk, take a trip to the park, be outside. Um, if possible, meet with friends or family, talk to them on the phone, video chat with them, do whatever you can to so that you don't have to have the sense that you're alone, because you're not. People are always going to be there for you. And if you find yourself not being able to rely on friends or family, know that there are also professional services out there. Most of them are free of charge too, and you can go ahead and talk to someone who's willing to listen to you, because no, in my opinion, no worth is life taking over little things such as isolation and all that. So again, Kimura-chan will be hugely missed. And it's funny too, because when this report came out, a lot of those people who were responsible for sending those type of messages and all that, of course, went ahead and deleted them. And right now, where that leaves the show Terrace House, which was still in production, I think they took a pause because of the whole COVID situation. I don't know how they're going to address this, or when they will be able to resume it. But I do know this recent season that is still going on is now currently postponed in Japan, so you cannot even see any past episodes of it. I do believe we might be able to see some here in Netflix in the U.S. I don't know how in sync they are as far as the newer seasons, but um, if you want to remember her or even just learn who she is, there are always ways to find out online. So, um, yeah, it's unfortunate news to be talking about, but age 22, Hana Kimura passing away over the weekend. So, um, no real easy segue out of that, but I'll continue with another piece of news that I found interesting. And this is a little bit, I guess, more of a comical. So hopefully this will bring things up from the last story there. But Solo 2, people were chanting and championing that the sequel to Solo, which is, of course, the Han Solo movie, to be made. This kind of started trending on Twitter yesterday, and I believe it's because it was the 2 year anniversary of the theatrical release of Solo. And, when that movie was first announced, a lot of people were against it. Um, it's kind of hard to fill in the huge shoes of Harrison Ford in such an iconic character. That was always going to be a tough task to kind of fill in, especially as an actor willing to take on that role. But then there was production issues. Obviously it's been very well known that there are issues with the director and all that, and then they had to release the director. Ron Howard stepped in to try to take over the project, and then eventually it was finally released, and to kind of lackadaisical affair. So it wasn't a huge hit. hugely panned by a lot of the Star Wars fans out there. Myself, I enjoyed the movie for what it was. If this was not a Star Wars movie, it was an awesome movie. It was fun. It was somewhat entertaining and exciting. A lot of the battle scenes and all that were greatly done. I loved Lando's portrayal by Danny Glover, Donald Glover, sorry, uh, was great. And he kind of captured that essence of Billy D. Williams as Lando there. But the unfortunate thing about this movie is that it was labeled Star Wars and Solo and Han Solo, and unfortunately, they weren't able to really capture that spirit and magic of the original character. But for those of you who've watched it, know the way the movie ended in a very interesting note. Again, no spoilers here. If you're interested to find out, I'm sure you could look it up online and all that. But the ending kind of tied in very closely to how we saw events unfold in series like the Clone Wars and Rebels. So I think because, again, I mentioned this before, prequel popularity has increased a lot because of series like the Clone Wars and Rebels. And now I think because of that same type of connection and tie, Solo has kind of gained in kind of popularity in the last several months. So I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are kind of championing to make there be a Solo 2 in the works. Because I think some people not necessarily want to see the continuation of this particular character, but I think wants to see the continuation of the events that happened within the show. I mean, within the movie, and see what happens after that. If you ask my opinion, I think a movie is not necessary. If they did want to venture more into this, why not make it a series? Throw it up on Disney Plus, just like they do with The Mandalorian and all that. I think that will serve its purpose better. Maybe not make Solo the main focus here. Don't call it Solo. Maybe call it something different. But I think um, the best way to kind of continue the storylines that happened and were unveiled within Solo, might as well just do that in series format so that you can really fully elaborate and better portray all the events and tell a better story, and not have people nitpick on whether or not the actor looks and feels and talks like Harrison Ford as Han Solo, and so on and so forth. So I did find that really, really interesting, that was really blowing up on Twitter during the Memorial Day weekend. So yeah, so as far as like news and tidbits, just because of the holiday weekend, it was a little slow, so not really much to talk about there. If there's anything that you came across over the weekend and you wanted to mention, by all means, throw it in the chat and we can discuss it. But moving on to, I think, the main segment here, tomorrow, HBO Max launches, the much talked about streaming service that's supposed to be a huge competitor to the likes of Netflix and Disney Plus. Finally makes its debut tomorrow. I know it made the news rounds very heavily once it was announced that Zack Snyder will be releasing his Justice League Snyder Cut on HBO Max exclusively in 2021. So that made huge buzz and news all over the world. A lot of fans were really fiending to see, oh, how is that going to be and everything like that. Oh, I can't wait. But that's a whole year from now. So, what is there to watch when HBO Max launches? Well, based off of my kind of investigation and all that, there's quite a bit to watch for HBO Max at launch. So here I just kind of want to give a quick rundown of what to expect when HBO Max launches tomorrow. Again, you may be curious, you may be on the fence, maybe you already pre-purchased it, but I think based off what I saw, there is plenty for everyone to kind of dive into. So when HBO Max launches tomorrow, it has about, not only is it going to have the full HBO library of shows like Game of Thrones, Westworld, and so on and so forth. But it will also have a lot of the movie offerings that they currently offer, on top of other ones that are more Warner Brothers centric. But on top of that, they have about one, two, three, four, five, six original series that will be launching tomorrow, ready to stream immediately on launch. So, one of which is definitely for the family and for the kids, there is a show called Craftopia. Craftopia, just think of it as, you know, whether you want to call it the British Bake Off or whatever cooking challenge that is out there. But basically, it is very similar to that, but except it involves arts and crafts where kids compete against each other to kind of do their own arts and crafts. I guess every show has a challenge of what you're supposed to do, and then there'll be judges in there, and then obviously money prize winnings and the chance to be able to call yourself craft king or queen. So something that's interesting, and I'm sure will be extremely fun for kids to watch, and for the family to watch all together. So that's definitely one of the originals that is coming um, to HBO Max tomorrow. Along with that, there is a series called Legendary. Legendary is a competition series that pulls from the underground ballroom community. Voguing teams must compete in unbelievable balls and showcase sickening fashion in order to achieve legendary status. The cast includes MC Deshaun Wesley and DJ Mike Q, as well as celebrity judges Lo Roach, Jamila Jamil, Leomi Maldonado, and Megan Thee Stallion. If you know who those people are, then I'm sure you're already gearing up and ready to go watch this. But it does look very interesting, and another type of competition show to add to the mix there. So, what's great is that HBO Max is really trying to be diverse in their content. So I think this is very, very interesting and unique in its sense. So I'm sure I mean, it looks interesting, it looks fun, something that could be very interesting to check out when launch comes tomorrow. One thing that I am extremely excited and pumped up for is the new Looney Tunes cartoons that have been produced and put together for HBO Max. Now, not only are they going to have, I believe, the original Looney Tunes, but they have gone ahead and created a new Looney Tunes series that is exclusive to HBO Max. And the one thing that I've always kind of been hesitant about when it comes to bringing back classics like the Looney Tunes, the old Disney classics, is that they've always did whatever they could to put a modern twist to it. And most of the time that affected the animation and how the characters look. If you look at the very latest in Disney shorts, animated shorts with Mickey Mouse and all those cast and characters, they don't look anything like they did back in the day. You know, they are very modern twist and take on it. So it kind of throws me off. What I like what they did here is that they kind of kept close to the original look as much as possible. When it comes to the humor, the kind of humor, slapstick humor, is somewhat brought back to these new shorts here. Of course, there will be more modern takes on jokes that will land with kids today, but I think the personalities are all still there. If you're interested in checking any of these shorts out just to see what's there to offer, there are some episodes or shorts that are now readily available on YouTube. Just look up Looney Tunes HBO Max and you'll be able to find them and see for yourself. See if this is something that you would be interested in checking out. I myself am very interested in checking it out. So, uh, the 3 episodes that I watched over the weekend, I thought were pretty comical and pretty humorous. Again, I would love to see more, and especially when it involves more of the famous Looney Tunes characters. So, something that is very interesting and fun to check out once launch hits tomorrow. Another original is the new Anna Kendrick series called Love Life. Love Life is the first full-length scripted series with Anna Kendrick. Is a journey from first love to last love, and how the people along the way make us into who we are, and we finally end up with someone forever. I'm reading this exactly how it's written, folks. The fresh take on romantic comedy anthology series is from creator and co-showrunner Sam Boyd, and is produced by Lionsgate Television. So there you have it. So it's like an anthology series, rom-com style. Anna Kendrick heavily involved in it. If this is something that is up your wheelhouse, then it could be something worth you looking into. So that's coming out. Something that was I just found out about and I thought was extremely hilarious, even though I am not a huge fan of the character, but that is Elmo. Oh, before I got in there, as I'm sure a lot of you know already by now, Sesame Street has been exclusive on HBO for the last couple of years when they kind of left public television and made their way to pay cable. But even though people had to pay for access to HBO just to watch Sesame Street, it's still hugely popular, especially with kids and families. So they're really trying to do what they can with creating new content with the Sesame Street characters, with the Jim Henson characters. The Muppets are coming out with a brand new show on HBO Max. But now they kind of did something interesting where they took Elmo and put him in his own late night talk show. And basically, it's called The Not Too Late Show with Elmo. It's everyone's favorite 3.5-year-old red monster. The Not Too Late Show with Elmo is brand new talk show transforming late night. Elmo, his sidekick Cookie Monster, and other favorite Sesame Street friends invite the whole family to tune in together as they interview celebrities, musical guests, and explore the latest in pop culture and play trendy games, all with humor and heart. I thought this is extremely cute, and a different take on the late night talk show genre. Something that is interesting that you, as a family, can now watch together instead of waiting for the kids to go to bed. Then you can go ahead and tune into your Jimmy Fallons and Jimmy Kimmels and things like that. I read an article that the reason why they kind of produced a show like this, in Elmo's words, is that Elmo wanted something fun to watch with the family before he goes to sleep. So that's the whole idea and premise of the show. So obviously, a lot of lighthearted humor in here, interactions with celebrities and Muppets. So it looks fun. It looks like it's going to be something interesting. I think this is something that I wouldn't mind checking out. I believe the first episode is available to watch on YouTube right now. So if you are interested, you can go ahead and check it out. As soon as I have some time today, I will check it out myself and see how that plays out. Lastly, as far as originals are concerned, and this one, in my opinion, looks very intriguing, is a show called On the Record. On the Record presents the powerful and haunting story of music executive Drew Dixon as she grapples with her decision to become one of the first women of color in the wake of the hashtag MeToo movement to come forward and publicly name hip hop mogul Russell Simmons of sexual assault. The documentary chronicles not only Dixon's story, but that of several other accusers. So, hard-hitting docu-series here. Like I said, HBO Max is really trying to keep their content diverse and provoking in many different ways possible. So this is something that is extremely interesting to me. If I were to get HBO Max on launch, or eventually, this is a series that I'm definitely interested in watching and learning more about. So if this is, again, something that you find interesting, it will be available for you to watch at launch. So as far as originals are concerned, those are the main ones there. Um, since they are teamed up with Warner Brothers and the whole DC universe online, there's a whole bunch of series that will also be made available starting tomorrow. I'll run down the quick list here. You have The Alienist, Anthony Bourdain Parts Unknown, Batwoman, The Big Bang Theory, The Boondocks, Doctor Who, DC's Doom Patrol seasons 1 and 2, and of course future seasons as well, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Friends, Ghosts, Home, Impractical Joker seasons 1 and 4, Independent, Katie Keene, Lipstick Empire, Luther, Nancy Drew, The OC, The Office now has a new home since they left Netflix. Obviously, we already knew that. Pretty Little Liars, Rick and Morty, Robot Chicken, Sesame Street, Stathless Flats, Top Gear season 17 to 25, Torchwood, and Trigonometry. Just to name a few there. And like I mentioned before, a whole bunch of movies are expected to be available to start streaming on HBO Max. The list is way too long for me to talk about right now, but just some things that kind of stood out.
Grove makes my life better in a lot of ways. Natural
Ooh,
cleaning
what's that?
products come to my doorstep. I don't
Oh,
have to
don't
go
you love it when you
anywhere.
get hit
When you
with
have a
audio
kid,
ads?
it's really helpful.
All right, be quiet. Um, but yeah, a couple of things to kind of note here is 2001 Space Odyssey, the Batman movie collection, Blade Runner, Braveheart, Casablanca, Citizen Kane, Friday the 13th, Godzilla, Gone with the Wind, The Goonies, Gremlins, A Hard Day's Night. Oh, not to mention that 20 Studio Ghibli films will be available on HBO Max, such as Kiki's Delivery Service, Howl's Moving Castle, just to name a few. My Neighbor Totoro, the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, When Harry Met Sally, The Wizard of Oz, Wonder Woman, and the Superman movie collection. So a lot of movies there to add to your list if you're ever interested in checking those movies out or want to rewatch them at any time. Now that's just what's going to be available at launch. Now there's going to be a whole other new set of things coming out in June, which is basically next week already. So not only will there be additional episodes of the new Looney Tunes series there, but we will also be getting a new take on the Perry Mason series, a new Adventure Time movie, and other things. So, like I said, HBO limited series. Perry Mason will be coming June 21, which is a more modern take on Perry Mason. Then you have a new true crime docuseries called I'll Be Gone in the Dark, June 28th. All 23 seasons of South Park will be available on HBO Max June 24th. Huge collection of stuff there for HBO Max. Like I mentioned before, Adventure Time Distant Lands BMO coming out June 25th. If you're hungry for more Adventure Time stuff, that's something that'll be available there. New cartoons, like I mentioned, Looney Tunes. A new Popeye cartoon series will be coming out on June 16th. And then additional movies additional movies including The Iron Giant, Titanic, Ad Astra, First Man, and Ford v Ferrari. So I don't know. You be the judge, but I think HBO Max is really putting their pedal to the metal there and really seeing what they can do as far as being a major competitor to Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus. So, right now, if you pre-order today before tomorrow, you can still get that deal of $11.99 a month. I don't know how long that's going to be good for, but I think that's good for a whole year before it goes up to the $14.99. Now, if you have an HBO Go membership already, I believe that does transfer over, that you can get that into your HBO Max account. I believe there are articles out there to kind of help explain that. If you are a cable subscriber and already subscribed to HBO, I think depending on your cable service, it will grant you access automatically to HBO Max as well. So what I would do, check with your cable provider, see if this is available for you, and then download it tomorrow and then check it out and see how it goes. If any of you do end up grabbing it and checking out, do let me know. Let me know what you find interesting, what is something that you are looking forward to. A lot of new stuff there, and I think the content there is quite heavy. Not to mention, I know for a lot of fans of Friends, they are having a reunion special as well. I think originally people were assuming that it was going to be a brand new season of Friends, but it's just a reunion special. But They will have all seasons of Friends available. I think that was a hole that was left unfilled when Friends left Netflix. I believe it was 2 years ago or a year ago. So those who are feeding for Friends or watching Friends again, just like those who are wanting to watch The Office again, this is now going to be their new home. So AKB, yeah, HBO Max for all the Ghibli content. Like I said, 20 films of the Studio Ghibli universe will be made available on HBO Max. So that alone is a great value, especially since it was announced that Netflix in Japan and other countries were going to be making a lot of these films available, but not in the US territory. And now we know why, because HBO and Warner Brothers kind of took ownership of that to keep it for their own service. So yeah, a lot of great stuff there. It will be interesting to see what the subscription numbers will be looking like, especially now. I feel like now as the country is slowly opening up, or reopening, I should say, people are going to be now available to maybe head back to their offices, go back to work, spend more time outside if they ever choose to. So it'll be interesting to see how big of an impact it will be on HBO Max when it launches tomorrow. Now, back in March and April, I should say, Netflix and Disney Plus saw huge surges in subscriptions because of the stay-at-home lockdown situations that people found themselves in. So, given that we are at the end of May moving into June, is that still going to hold true for a lot of people? Will they be looking for more content there? So it'll be interesting to see like how that's really going to play out there. Hector Carrillo chimes in, can't wait to watch Dexter's Lab, Ed, and Eddie, and Billy and Mandy on HBO Max. Yes, a lot of something I did forget to mention. A lot of the Cartoon Network originals that we grew up with and loved will be made available as well. So like the titles I mentioned there, those are all great titles. I believe there'll be others there. I'll provide updated information and links in the description after the show with anything that I may have missed, or at least a full rundown of everything that I kind of mentioned here, so that you can kind of create your own queue list or watch list of what you're looking forward to. So yeah. So that being said, if no one else has anything else they want to chime in on real quick, that is my time and that is the show. So a little short one today. Like I said, news has been very brief because of the holiday weekend, but like I mentioned before, again, something that I'm very serious about when it comes to mental health. If at any time you ever feel the need to talk to anybody, please reach out to someone. You're not alone, and you don't have to be alone. There are people out there willing to help you, willing to be there for you, whether you realize it or not. You just have to let people know that you are in need. So make sure you do that. Right now is a tough time for everybody, especially for those who are on lockdown at home alone. So please do reach out to friends, family, anyone willing to talk about. So to talk to you. So please keep that in mind. AKB, nice little segue to here too. Phantasy Star Online 2, North America, PC launch tomorrow. Wednesday, crossplay between PC and Xbox. That is something that I will be sure, more than likely, talking with Paul at Paul Grams at our Nerds to Men podcast tomorrow, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is, I know, something we mentioned about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, so definitely looking forward to that. But let's cue the music as we head on out of here for the day. Again, thank you for tuning in and, keeping me company on this Tuesday afternoon. One more mention, if you have the means and you can, please donate to help me raise money and donate to Coffee to the Front Lines. Link is above and in the description of the video. I'll be back again on Friday at my normal time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to cap off the week. Until then, stay cool, stay classy, stay safe, be kind to one another, wash your hands, wear a mask, and make every day as memorable as possible as you can. And like I said, you're never alone. Make sure to reach out and talk to somebody close by, and have a good conversation, you know, or do a watch party or something, you know, like there's a lot of fun things to do out there. But until Friday, until next time, be good, take care, peace.